The mega fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford has been agreed for September. In this video, I'm going to be exploring what both men should do while they're waiting for this fight. What to do while you're waiting. It's a difficult question, it's a nuanced question, and in this video, I want to not only do that, but also take a little bit of a look at the fight in the early stages and see how I think it's going to go, because we're a long way out from it. 7 months is a long time to wait for a fight. How do both of these men best prepare, and what do I think about this matchup? I get into it all in this video. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. It's double upload day, people, because there's so much stuff to talk about at the moment and I don't want to miss a beat. I had an opportunity to record today, so I thought, you know what, I better make the most of it. And interestingly enough, I made a video a couple days ago about this fight, about whether or not it should happen, whether or not it will happen, what people are thinking in the early stages, professionals from boxing, the coaches, and different fans, different opinions and comments, whether or not the fight is for money, whether or not the fight is for legacy, or most likely it's a bit of both, as I think we've seen. But in this video, I want to talk about the fact that it's been made for September. It's going to be in the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, which I think holds up to 72,000 people maximum. At least that's what it is for the Super Bowl. And given that they're going to want as big a gate as possible for this, I imagine it could even be more than that, because obviously I imagine with American football, you can't put people on the pitch, of course. But with boxing, of course, you can get much, much closer to the ring. So perhaps the capacity will be even higher for this event. Now, I'm very intrigued about how both men will approach this one. The first thing I want to think about is the weight of Terence Crawford. Apparently, after the weigh-in for Madrimov, on the day of the fight, Crawford rehydrated to around 170 pounds. Now, obviously, when he fought Madrimov, that was at the 154 weight limit. This fight will be at 168, so he rehydrated to 2 pounds above the limit for the weight that this Canelo fight will take place at. Canelo, of course, has fully grown into 168. He's a full-fledged 168-pounder, although he probably, you would think at his optimum, be a 160-pounder. It's an interesting equation for Crawford. How does he approach this? Now, in my opinion, there's only one way you go about this, and that is you come in at the very, very best weight for performance. What does that mean? Because performance takes on many different shapes and sizes. Different levels of performance, different types of opponents will require different styles of performance. And the question is, will extra weight help Crawford? I think the answer is yes, but how much extra weight will help Crawford? And that is the key equation here. And getting that right is absolutely essential to beating Canelo Alvarez in this fight. Now, does Crawford pack on size? I think he has to put some size on, but he's not huge. I think Crawford's around 5'9", 5'10". So he's possibly an inch taller than Canelo, maybe the same height as Canelo. I think Canelo's listed as being 5'8". But I think for Crawford in this fight, I think we all know, and his coach confirmed this, Bomac, he said he needs to be light on his feet in this fight. You've got to make Canelo move his feet. And that means Crawford's got to have great stamina. He's got to be light. But it's very important that when they are in the clinches, that when he does get hit, he's got enough weight about him that he can actually take those punches comfortably. I say comfortably. You don't want to be getting hit at all by Canelo. And Canelo, whatever happens, will be the bigger puncher. But the question is, how much resistance do you add? They will know Crawford's body so well at this point. They will understand what he can do and what he can't do. But in that process of figuring out that weight, the big question is, do you take an interim fight to test out the waters at a higher weight? Now, the risk you run with that is you get cut, you get hurt, you lose. That would be an absolute disaster. And given it's such a big fight, that would just be, it would completely derail the whole thing. So if you're the Saudis, you probably don't particularly want them to have a fight before that. And you do sort of wonder, why don't they just go in May? Because you've got another Mexican celebration weekend, Cinco de Mayo, in May. It makes sense to do it in May. But the question is it a good idea? I think if I'm Crawford, I probably want one. But on the flip side of that, Crawford, of all fighters out today that are active, he only fights once a year. So it might not disagree with him too much just having one fight this year, but it is a big gap from his last fight. I think it was in, when was that last fight card? Was it in September? So it's going to be, it'll be a year since he fought again, more or less. June, July. In fact, no, I think it was August. Anyway, it'll be about a year since he fought again. So for Crawford, it's the right cadence from what he's been doing. But the question is, do you want to get a fight in there to test out the weight and see how you feel, and maybe tweak it a bit for that 168 clash? The thing about that is, you could say, well, he hasn't fought even at 160, so maybe do a fight at 160. But my issue with that is, if he's already rehydrating to 170 and he's in there with Madrimov, who God knows what he weighed, he could have weighed 174, 175. He could have even weighed 180. I mean, Madrimov looked massive in there. So you've already fought somebody who will be a somewhat similar size to Canelo, who athletically is probably better than Canelo at this point in his career. He certainly has a lot more activity in the way that he fights. He moves a lot more. So I'm not sure how much benefit there is in him taking a fight because I think Madrimov was quite big. I think I'd say he's similar dimensions to Canelo Madrimov anyway. So all you really do is run the risk of derailing the fight if you take it and something goes wrong. But equally, I understand you maybe want to sharpen up a little bit. You maybe want to test the weight and refine that process. So I do get it. It's entirely up to their camp at the end of the day, and they've got to do what they think is right for their man. Personally, I would probably try and get a fight. Who against? That's where it gets a bit tricky. That's where it's a bit difficult. And I'm not sure what the answer to that is. That requires some thought. So get in the comment section below. If you were Terence Crawford and you were going to take a fight before Canelo, who would you want to put him in there with? Possibly someone else at 154, but they're all good fighters. And then maybe a Tim Tszyu would be good because he's lost. He's a decent name. You'd make a bit of money, but you'd fully expect him to win that fight. Someone like that could be interesting. The question is, does he do it 154? Does he do it 160? If it's 160, there's less options up at 160. Now, with Canelo, it's the same question. Do you take an interim fight to make sure that you're nice and sharp before that Crawford fight and to make sure that you are just fully ready and fit and you've not lost any sharpness? The interesting thing about Canelo going into this one that really gives Crawford a good chance is that he is on the slide, in my opinion. Now, the question is, how much is he on the slide? And will an extended time out of the ring increase that regression in his game? I'm not sure, and it's a very interesting equation to try and figure out. If I'm Canelo, the obvious option seems to be to defend his belt against William Skull, I think he's called. Forgive me if I've got his first name wrong, but he's called Skull. I'd never heard of him before. He is the mandatory currently, and the question is, if you're Canelo, do you go and fight against Skull? I should actually say that the IBF, I think they did strip Canelo. So Skull, I think, is the current IBF champion, so it would be an opportunity for him to get that belt back and then create the undisputed title fight. And so that's actually very interesting. And I know that a lot of Crawford's motivation is to be up at 168 and become the undisputed champion. And if Canelo has all those belts, it really does add to the spectacle. Now, it doesn't take that much away from it, in my opinion, because Canelo's a huge name. He's quite clearly the champ. He never lost the belt in the ring. Similarly to the Usyk-Fury match, Usyk was stripped by the IBF. Everyone still sees him as the undisputed champ. Dubois has the IBF belt now, but I think we all feel that Usyk just is the champ because he's even beaten Dubois in the ring just before that. So... But I think that would be an interesting thing to do. Go and get that belt if you're Canelo, make it for undisputed. But again, is Skull better than we think? I've not watched Skull, so I can't comment on that yet. But it might be a difficult fight. And Canelo's still definitely good enough to compete and win at the top level, but he's not what he was by any stretch of the imagination. Overall, I'm really excited that this has been announced. I don't know, I kind of go to war with myself over these things because what I really want to see is who's the best at each weight division. And when someone jumps up a bunch of weight classes to make a bit of a freak show fight, because it is sort of like, why would you fight Terence Crawford? Why wouldn't you have fought David Benavidez, for example? I kind of just want to see the best fight the best in each weight class. And I firmly believe that Benavidez at 168 is a harder fight than Crawford will be. But at the end of the day, I'm super intrigued by it. And there's that opportunity to see how good actually is Crawford. How good is this guy? There's an opportunity for greatness here. There's an opportunity for legacy, something that will transcend time in boxing. So I can't help but get excited by it, even if my general rule of thumb is I want to see the best fight the best in each weight class. And this fight is kind of just fully financially motivated to my perception. But at the same time, it's not fully because I can see the opportunity for greatness here. But, you know, if we get it and the fight goes the way we think it will, Canelo knocks out Crawford or beats Crawford comfortably, then you're sort of like, well, what was the point in that? We've held up things again in the division, finding out who's the best in that division, all for the sake of a mega fight, a financial mega fight, I should say. So I am slightly torn on it, but ultimately I'm super intrigued by it. I'm super excited by it. It's going to be absolutely massive. So I can just kind of throw out everything I just said out the window because there are some fights that just transcend that. And I said it before in my last video, but I'll say it again. It's because Crawford's that damn good. And that is what is the exception to the rule here. When someone is that damn good, and it gets your imagination going. It's your opportunity to see how special is this person at what they do. I can't help but get excited by that, guys. And I can't wait to make the content for it. I can't wait to do the breakdown, the preview. Hopefully by then, I'll have my boxing podcast in place, which I've mentioned. That is coming. It's in the works. But what else can you say about this fight? It captures the imagination like nothing else. So guys, get in the comments below. Let me know what you think each man should do in the build up to this. And let me know what you think about this fight being made. Are you excited about it? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you think it's a great idea? But I just wanted to make a quick one just to acknowledge it's been made. You know, I'm not a big news video guy, but I'm trying to change that. I'm just trying to find different ways of doing these videos because they're important to fill the space when the schedule's not as busy. But most of my content coming up, as I've said, in my Beterbiev Bivol face-off reaction, which I think will be out just after this. That is the card that's going to be dominating my content for the next little period, and I'm super excited about it. But anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed this quick little news video, and as I always say, on to the next one.